You know what's weird about this car is it's not that expensive. Hello, it's James here, and today we're going to talk about, well, things and stuff.
It's kicking. It's hot. It keeps moving all my forms. There's a leaf. Hello, little leaf. We'll put you in there so you can recharge.
Okay, I'm gonna have to turn off this AC so we can continue to have this conversation. Okay, finally turned the AC off. Put the windows down here, as it is 100 degrees and I don't want to die of heat exhaustion. You two, we don't need you. I don't know why my phone always plays. Now, we already talked about what this car cost. $68,290. We discussed the packages that are in this and the different options and how much I paid, which was MSRP. What we did not talk about, though, is maybe how much the car is worth. Because I think there should be one more digit to that number. Now, what do I mean by that? Why would I want to pay more? Well, I don't, right? I'm very happy with the price I paid on this car. That's not the issue. But this thing is punching way above its weight. So today, let's talk about a couple of the alternatives that people might think when they go to shop for a C8, or rather, they bought a C8 instead of what they were going to buy. And more importantly, let's talk about why this car is so affordable. Many people may rightfully say this is not an affordable car. It's an expensive, frivolous purchase. And to that, okay, you're on the wrong channel, bro. Okay, let's find a new thing to talk about. I can hear the engine rumbly. But here's the thing, it actually is really affordable for what you're getting. Rather, it's really good value for money. One of, if not the single biggest reasons, is economies of scale. So let's get that one out of the way right now. General Motors makes a lot of cars, and even a somewhat specialized car like a Corvette is still a production vehicle. And they make a lot of them. Not only that, but they share a lot of the same parts. So there's actually a brand new wiring harness that they made just for the C8. It costs, I don't know, I'd have to find the article, something like $1 billion or something to produce this one wiring harness. But it's not going to be used just for the C8 for long. It is going to be the new architecture that they use for many, many vehicles for the next decade or two. So even though, yes, it costs a lot to develop up front, they can spread that cost over a long period of time and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of vehicles being made. So other manufacturers like Ferrari might have to make a new wiring harness for every vehicle or every new generation of vehicles, which is maybe 3 or 4 different cars. But General Motors, dozens of different models. Economies of scale also means that they can buy a lot more of any single product. Let's think about really simple things even. Like, I don't know, a bolt. Okay, it's just a little bolt basically, and then we've got our nut on there and it's gonna hold our wheel on, yippee-doo. This is not an expensive part. It's also not a unique part. So when GM buys 10 million of these, they're going to get a better deal than a smaller manufacturer buying, say, 10,000 of them at a time. Okay, so what about the rest of the interior? They changed a lot of stuff in here, and most everything is custom and just specially for the Corvette. All these are aluminum, they're brushed, they just aren't in other cars, and they can't be. But there's a lot that we don't see. Seatbelt holders, switches that you don't deal with on a regular basis. These are all things that GM buys millions of and saves a lot of money on in the process. Speaking of that, what about some of the other items we see in here? Now, I've complained before about these buttons, but these buttons save money. Billet aluminum is expensive, and if you go and look at a Ferrari or McLaren, especially Bentleys or Rolls Royces, they will have usually billet metal pieces. That's expensive. By swapping out even just a few switches in the interior with plastic, we can save a lot of money and bring down the production costs. So yeah, you don't get your billet aluminum little switch, but maybe you also save a few $100s, if not more, on the cost of this car. Similar to that are the things like leather quality. So these are the GT1 seats, so they are the most basic Corvette seats that they offer, and they are leather. Even if you upgrade to the 3LT package that gets you the Napa interior and all the leather up here and all that stuff, it's still not even close to being the same leather quality that you'll get out of the exotic brands. Now, will most people even notice? No. It looks fantastic. The things that you touch are real leather, and it's quite smooth. But they can save a lot of money by not having to worry about only Scottish bulls that were never in a pen with barbed wire on it, and just go with, cloth instead. There's also fairly limited options. Let's talk about some silly little things like the paint. Now, this is ceramic matrix gray. It's one of the, 8 or so colors that they offered, and I think it's gorgeous. It looks blue to white to gray, or even silver in certain colors and lighting. But what if you wanted a plum purple Corvette? Or what if you wanted these symbols here, these letters, to be carbon fiber? What if you wanted 2 different tones of paint? Well, you'd have to go and pay extra for that with someone else. But if you buy a full, true exotic car, you can spend a lot more money and get any color. You want to paint match your exterior to the watch face of your favorite wristwatch? Then just send it in and, they'll do their best for an extra $20,000. So by limiting some of the options in this car, they make a more simple production process. Which brings us to our next point. Robots. Now, even Rolls-Royce and Ferrari use robots at this point to help with certain parts of their car construction. And Corvette is a small enough brand within Chevrolet that they can do a lot of stuff by hand. However, they still do way more with robots than those large, well-known exotic brands will do. By using robots, they decrease the amount of people they need, they increase how quickly things are made, it just drops cost all the way around. However, it also limits what they can do. Robots can do certain things way better than humans, and other things they just can't do at all yet. Okay, so we've talked about some pretty obvious things, right? General Motors, they make lots of cars, they're using cheaper parts, but what about some of the things that people might not notice or even think of when they go, wow, that's a really good price. Well, I think one of the first things that people think of anymore when they go to see an exotic car is the door. And this one, it just kind of, opens. That's right. In a world where we have gull wing doors and scissor doors and everything else door you can imagine that goes up and sideways, Chevy made a car that just closes its door. It doesn't even raise or anything. It just comes right out. It has a kind of trick door handle, but that's about it. Now this may seem small, but this is actually huge. Engineering the pieces that go into these doors and installing that and servicing that is very expensive. And by using pre-existing technologies or just simpler design methodologies, they can save a tremendous amount of money. They can use basic off-the-shelf parts that are well proven. They can put that money and that design into other things. Okay, so we don't get, freaking sweet Lambo style doors, right? Although you can definitely get those aftermarket. We've been seeing that already. But what else is there? Well, there's a lot of stuff that you may not see. If you look at most of the exotic cars out there, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and you look at their engine, it doesn't look like this. This thing's a bit of a mess. This is literally just a piece of plastic making it look a little bit better. They didn't put a bunch of money and time and craftsmanship into making this motor look nice. It works well, it's robust, it does its job, but it just doesn't have the same, curb appeal. The same can be said about a lot of other components, like the strut towers. They work, they're effective, but they're really, really simple. So when GM builds one of these, they're kind of saying, well, look, no one looks at these strut towers anyways. Why the heck are we going to build them out of billet aluminum? And the same goes into a lot of other things in here. If you take apart a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, you're going to find that that craftsmanship goes into places you're never, ever going to see unless you take apart that car. But in this, even fairly obvious stuff, it's there. Okay, now I opted for the engine appearance package in this car, and one of the things that gets you is this. This is a carbon fiber shroud, right, on each side, and then there's lights. And it was about an extra $1,000. This is the only carbon fiber on the car. Most other exotic cars are using extensive carbon fiber nowadays. Instead of carbon fiber, we have plastic bumpers, and fiberglass body panels. Now, yeah, fiberglass is still way more light, and in many ways it's better for dent resistance because it doesn't dent, it just cracks after a while compared to steel. But it also is a fraction of, someone's doing some artillery, it would sound like. We'll talk over the gunfire. But it's also a fraction of the cost. Carbon fiber, while it's gotten a lot less expensive to produce, is still very expensive. So by using a lot of fiberglass instead of the carbon fiber or Kevlar or anything like that, they're saving a bunch of money. And no one really even thinks about that, right? No one knows. I bet, however, on the Z06 or ZR1 or Zora versions coming out, there's going to be a lot more carbon fiber used, but it's also going to cost a lot more money. There's one more thing, and that is the business model of GM. They make a lot of vehicles. Because of that, they can run lower margins. So if this car costs them $50,000 to produce and they sell it for $60,000, I know I'm massively oversimplifying things here, right? They make $10,000. Well, Ferrari, it costs them like $150,000 or $170,000 to produce a car. So they have to sell it for a lot more money. But they can also charge a lot more. So if it costs $170,000, but they sell it for $400,000, their margins are way higher. So not only is it a more expensive vehicle, but it's more profitable as well. General Motors doesn't have to do that. They can sell a car for the everyday person. Before I let you go here, I want to address one other point, and it has nothing to do with why this car costs so little. Actually, it's why it costs so much right now. Now, I'm a bit of an economics geek, and if you know anything about macroeconomics, then you'll know about supply and demand. As demand goes up, then supply also will generally shift, and the prices will shift accordingly until they find a new price and a new equilibrium. But what if only one of those things changes? You can't have the same price if you have the same demand but way less supply. Well, that's what's happened. You see, when they first were supposed to be making these vehicles, they had the strikes. And the strikes ended, they started making the cars, including this one, chassis 646. Then, of course, the pandemic hit. That happened, everything shut down again. But the demand was still there. There were 30 or 40,000 pre-orders in. So what happens? Well, those cars that were made, the original 2,741 of them, suddenly became worth a lot of money. When you have 30 or 40,000 people that want one of these, but it's rarer than a Lamborghini Gallardo, it's going to start increasing the prices. So there were bidding wars. While GM and the dealerships were charging MSRP, many other people were able to charge kind of whatever they wanted, and it's still happening. Right now, they are about to finish production for the 2020 model year and start up on 2021. And they just barely started on the hardtop convertibles. So this is still a pretty rare car. Because of that, examples are going for $10, $20, $30, even $40,000 over sticker. That's pretty amazing. Now, is it going to last forever? No. At some point, it'll balance out when production catches up and supply and demand are able to get back into equilibrium. But for right now, that supply curve is way off of demand. So prices are going to be high. Okay, well, that is about all that I have for you today, my friends. I have shot this entire thing in a single parking space. So trying to keep it simple, I can't really go too far here on minimum security penitentiary Fort Lee. But yeah, this is where we're at. So let me know in the comments down below if you think I missed anything, if you think that the car is a good value, or maybe you disagree and you think that it's overpriced. I don't know. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Until next time, stay safe, drive safe, and be happy. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to go to dadbod.marketing for all of your free business and marketing advice. Please like, share, and subscribe if you got something out of this video. And don't forget to check out our other videos right here. Ooh, that was new. That, interesting. Didn't see that popping off before. There's more explosions. Are we good?